The purpose of this video analysis is to assess and describe the way in which all four components of the grammar of games interact when applied to a context. The grammar of games is a framework used to assist educators and learners in understanding the underlying concepts that contribute to performance and development in sports and movement contexts, whilst also providing educators with an informed ability to assess the development and performance of students in a fair and equitable manner. Developing an understanding of the grammar of games is effective in enhancing performance and teaching abilities in a physical education environment, as it allows students and educators to understand areas of similarities and differences within contexts in order to effectively facilitate the transfer of quality movement skills and knowledge to a variety of contexts. The first component of the grammar of games I will discuss is decision making. Decision making is a vital component of the grammar of games which ultimately affects a learner's ability to facilitate movement skills, understand and use strategy and tactics, and enhances their ability to interpret what is being communicated. Decision making can take place on either an individual or team level. Individual decisions are concerned with the player's perception of themselves. For example, the idea of what I look like, where I am, what I've got, and what I know. During the clip of the 3-on-3 volleyball game, we can observe multiple instances of individual decision making. An example of this is when we see the player in the grey singlet strike the ball over the net. Through effective use of concentration, the player is able to analyse the configuration of the players on the opposing team. This allows her to make the decision to use the tactic of striking the ball to the far right corner, away from confrontational space, rather than directly in front of the net where an opposing player stands. This is because the player is able to recognise this area as part of their engagement space. This use of decision making is a result of effective use of concentration, which allowed them to make the decision to use the movement skills of running, jumping, and striking the ball in a tactical manner in an attempt to create deception for the opposing team. Decision making on a team level refers to making decisions as a team or player within a team regarding ideas such as who we have, who we value, what or where the advantage is, and the role of self and team in play. An example of the use of team decision making in the 3-on-3 volleyball clip is the team's understanding and interaction with force ratio. This is seen as the team on the far side collectively condenses to block the ball at the net. The team uses their understanding of force ratio, which in this context refers to observing the gameplay configuration of the opposing team to predict movement and notice that the opposing team was progressing closer to the net. This encouraged the decision to be made to move forward to adapt and overcome the force ratio made by the opposing team to remove the gap and reduce their engagement space, which was effective as they were able to block the ball. The next component of the grammar of games I will discuss is communication and concentration. Communication and concentration is a concept within the grammar of games in which engagement and performance capabilities can be observed and also has a direct influence on the other grammar of games concepts. Communication within a physical education setting involves coding and decoding both verbal and non-verbal messages and cues. This allows for teams and individuals to manage gameplay, to execute effective decision-making, strategies and tactics, and movement skills. Verbal communication is used in gameplay to address various concepts such as action potential, posture and position, and also to encourage, distract, or demonstrate in gameplay. In the video provided, it is not possible to assess verbal communication. However, in a gameplay situation, it may sound like calling names to indicate player readiness, or calling names of specific tactical moves in order to notify teammates of specific plays about to take place. Non-verbal communication is used to demonstrate readiness of play, demonstrate team cohesion, encourage or discourage or motivate players, demonstrate strengths or weaknesses, and to signify or deceive intent of play, either to fellow teammates, opposition, or officials. Concentration is used to focus on components of skills or gameplay in order to react appropriately and make effective decisions of movement skills. Concentration can be difficult to observe, however can indicate a learner's ability as either beginner or more advanced, as characteristics such as the ability to direct attention, refocus or narrow to relevant objects or cues, and to ignore or deflect distractions. In 3-on-3 volleyball, there is a primary rule that requires the ball to travel in the direction in which the player is facing when the ball is caught. Through posture and positioning, the player communicates the direction in which the ball will travel, which can be decoded by fellow teammates and defensive players. We see this when the player in the singlet catches the ball side on. This use of body positioning indicates to her teammate in the black shirt the direction in which the ball is about to be thrown, which ultimately leads her to making the decision to use the movement skill to run straight onto the ball in order to effectively execute the tactic of striking the ball over the net. This also communicates to the opposition the area in which the ball is likely to travel from. Being so close to the net, the opposition can recognize that the play is likely to be a strike, allowing for them to make decisions and strategically configure themselves to react to the play, which is seen as the player in the pink singlet moves slightly across the court to remain in line with the ball. This is also a model of concentration, as by maintaining specific focus on the ball and the nonverbal cues being communicated, each player is able to effectively decode the messages to make appropriate decisions regarding movement skill execution. We can see how the use of communication and concentration interplays with the other components of the grammar of games, as we see the player with the blonde ponytail decodes the nonverbal cue of slowing down the play and looking in the direction of the intended pass. This allows her to make a decision to use the movement skill to run and tactically catch the ball facing sideways to the gameplay. The player in the cap concentrates on these actions and is able to decode these cues to understand where the teammates intend on the ball being received, and as a result, he uses movement skills of running across the court to reach the ball on time, jumping to reach the ball, and spiking the ball. The fast reactions and use of tactical movement skills in this sequence indicate effective concentration skills, and therefore the learners are of a higher level of skill proficiency. Movement skills are observable features of gameplay which are the specific skills required to move and facilitate effective gameplay. Movement skills are concepts which can be applied to a range of contexts to facilitate transfer of learning through movement concepts and skill themes such as locomotor skills, such as running, manipulative skills such as passing and striking the ball, as well as non-manipulative skills such as bending and reaching. When observing movement skill execution in gameplay, there are many things to consider, such as the concepts underpinning gameplay, such as primary rules, confrontational space, the areas in which the skill takes place, and the type of experience the learner has. In volleyball, there are various movement skills required to facilitate effective gameplay, such as striking, jumping, and running. This 3-on-3 version of volleyball has primary rules which requires learners to use their knowledge of volleyball and apply skills from all skill themes to the new context, such as throwing, catching, and twisting. We see this throughout as players are required to run onto the ball to catch, twist and turn mid-air to catch the ball facing the desired direction, and also to throw and strike the ball in the most effective direction. To do this, learners use their knowledge of movement concepts, such as spatial awareness, like the relationship between their arms and the net, direction of the ball when throwing or striking, and the force applied to throw or strike. The use of movement skills is contingent on the use of the other three components of the grammar of games, and vice versa. Without effective communication, concentration, decision-making, and strategy and tactics, movement skill cannot be applied effectively to operate gameplay in an effective manner. In saying this, even with effective conduction of the other three components, the execution of strategy and tactics, decision-making, and the use of communication is ultimately impacted by the skill proficiency of learners. This can be seen when the player in the red and black shirt attempts to strike the ball over the net, but instead the ball makes contact with the net. This is a result of ineffective use of movement skill, as the player attempts to strike the ball side on, affecting range of movement, direction, and force. The final component of the grammar of games to discuss is the use of strategies and tactics. These are the plans and decisions implemented in gameplay to enhance performance both with and without possession. Strategy refers to the initial plans to achieve an outcome, and tactic refers to the actions and skills required to achieve the desired outcome of the strategy. Strategies and tactics can occur on a whole, sub, or individual level and can be used as a reserve or to manage mobility, create deception, take advantage of error, or create variation in intent. In 3-on-3 volleyball, we see multiple instances where strategy and tactics are used. One example is the use of gameplay configuration. During almost every set in the game, the players position themselves in a triangle shape, with 2 players closest to the net and the 3rd player in the mid-section of the court. This is strategic as it helps the players to evenly cover the most utilized engagement space, whilst also creating mobility, allowing them to swiftly adapt to force ratio created by the opposing teams. This allows them to move through the play effectively, utilizing movement skills whilst eliminating confrontational space, allowing players to be more aware of spatial awareness, avoiding collision and reducing the occurrence of error due to your space, as players can easily see and communicate within the space around them and are aware of the area in which they need to cover. Another use of strategy and tactics evident is utilizing taller players to the best advantage by placing the taller player at the front, closest to the net. This is an attempt to block the ball as it is returned to them by the opposing team, whilst also providing the best opportunity for striking the ball as the player is able to utilize their height as an advantage over components. This increases the player's perceived engagement space due to higher visibility, increasing the accuracy of shots. This also reduces their perceived confrontational space and increases the confrontational space of those closest to the net as confidence in blocking the ball decreases. The final example is the use of a whole team strategy. This can be seen as the players utilize force ratio in an attempt to draw the opposing team to one part of the court. This creates deception as the players on the opposing team are likely to think that they will strike the ball toward that side of the court. This deception is beneficial to the team with possession, as we see the player in the black shirt and cap run across the court in the same direction. However, he spikes the ball to the opposite side of the court where there are no players within that space. As it has already been established, each of the 4 components of the grammar of games, including decision-making, communication and concentration, movement skill, execution and action, and strategy and tactics, cannot occur in isolation. Each component is contingent on each other and interacts in a holistic and systematic way. Throughout the clips seen in this analysis, it is evident that an interaction within one component is not a specific reaction to another. For example, whilst implementing a tactic may be a result of decision making, implementing a tactic can also result in decision making. We observe this in every clip, as there is an element of each component within each clip that contributes to the performance outcome. By understanding these 4 components of the grammar of games, this can contribute to the way in which we conduct physical education and observe learners to make judgment and work towards improving their performance. When all 4 components operate in synergy, this enhances gameplay and encourages transfer of learning, as learners are exposed to strategy and tactics, are encouraged to use effective communication, develop their decision-making skills, and as a result, utilize and enhance movement skills.